I was losing weight due to stress, but I didn't know what to do or who to talk to. That's when she saved me. Encouraged by her gentle voice, I spoke about my problems. Then, waiting for me was an unbelievable comeback story. My name is Jake Weston. I don't know what my parents look like. I spent my infancy in an orphanage, and by the time I could remember, I was in a children's care home. I don't know who or where my father is, and my mother apparently abandoned me and disappeared repeatedly. She never came to visit, so I don't even know what she looks like. But I'm okay with that. Although I was not wealthy living in the facility, I knew that the staff took good care of me. There were many kids at the facility, so I never felt lonely. There was one kid I got particularly close to. Her name was Madison. She was a cute girl, a year younger than me. Madison came to the care home when I was 9 and she was 8. She was thin and not very lively when we first met. At first, Madison refused to eat. "I want to go home to Mom and Dad." She kept saying that and crying all the time, so the staff seemed to be losing their grip on her. The other kids around the same age, Sally and Tim, would comfort her, saying, "You'll meet your mom someday, and if you're a good girl, they'll come to pick you up." Sure enough, some kids do get picked up by their parents and leave the facility. But not everyone. I gently approached Madison when she was down. "Do you want to see your mom and dad? I want to see them." Seeing her teary-eyed, I felt like I had to protect her. I told Madison that it's not lonely even without a mother. Because I had Madison and Madison had me. From then on, we supported each other like real siblings and grew older together. But we could only stay at the facility until 18 years old. After high school, I got a job at a small food manufacturing company and started living on my own. When Madison turned 18, she borrowed student loans to attend nursing school and started living in a dorm. Her parents didn't come to pick her up even when she turned 18. The company I was able to get a job at after high school didn't pay much. But I was grateful that they hired me, a high school graduate. In fact, I only had interviews at 2 companies when I was job hunting in high school. That was only possible thanks to the school going out of their way to vouch for me. I'm not picky. I would do anything if I could get hired because I have to live on my own. That's what I thought. So, I endured even if I was yelled at for no reason, had my chair kicked hard, and had to work overtime without pay. The president of the company I joined was a beautiful woman in her 40s named Aria, but she was only nice on the outside and was harsh to the employees. By the way, the chairman was Aria's father, and he seemed to have the same personality. In particular, he seemed to use me as a stress relief and made fun of me. "You should be grateful just for being hired as a high school graduate. I can fire you anytime, you know, but then, I guess you won't be able to pay your rent. Huh, it must be hard being poor and parentless, haha." Although it was frustrating, I couldn't say anything back. It's true that I might not find another company that would hire a high school graduate, and above all, I didn't want to worry Madison, who I often contact. I told Madison it was a good company. I didn't want to say things like, "I quit," or "I can't find another job." I've always been like a big brother to Madison. I didn't want my little sister to see me in such a pitiful state. But now I wonder why I didn't quit my job sooner. I did once reach my breaking point when I developed stress-induced gastroenteritis and talked to my boss about leaving the company. But immediately, CEO Aria came to see me. "So, you want to quit, huh?" she asked. I told her, albeit nervously, that I wanted to quit and get my health back on track. But CEO Aria just laughed off my concerns. "Don't be a baby. If you quit here, Are you just going to run away whenever something goes wrong at your next job? I don't intend to. I was weak and the words were not coming out of my mouth properly as I was being stuffed by the beautiful CEO. I'm not letting you off the hook. The real world isn't so forgiving. No company will hire you if you quit your first job right after getting hired out of high school. I was a high school graduate, and this company was my first job. I didn't have many friends. I didn't realize that the environment I was in was toxic and abnormal. The daily verbal abuse from my boss was physically and mentally exhausting, and I was constantly sleep deprived. I wasn't getting any information about other companies, so I assumed that other companies must be like this. One might say I was naive, but looking back, it almost feels like I was brainwashed. Amidst such daily life, one day, I was summoned by CEO Oria. Inside, I was wondering what she was going to say to me, hoping she wouldn't throw something at me. In her office, CEO Oria was waiting with a smirk on her face. "You're single, no girlfriend, right? Well, who'd want to be with a useless bum like you anyway, so I'll marry you." I was so taken aback, I froze for a few seconds. I don't quite understand. This was the story from CEO Oria. Apparently, CEO Arian is currently having an affair with another company's CEO. It's been going on for years, not just a fling. The other person is married and had kids, and I was disgusted with the CEO Aria, who knew that much and had a relationship with him. Recently, both Aria's father and her lover's parents started to suspect the affair. In order to hide it, the CEO Aria had come up with the idea of marrying me. I don't have any desire to have kids or raise a family. I just want to spend all my money on myself. I still want to be with my lover since we share common interests. Only then did I realize the ludicrous situation I had been dragged into. But why do you want to marry me? Would anyone really consider marrying someone they'd been harassing, even if it was just a sham? I've already told you, I don't care who it is. You have no money, no parents, you're perfect to keep a secret with. I felt dizzy. It's true, I have no money, no parents, no higher education. But being forced into a sham marriage, I felt like crying at my own pathetic state. And then, forgetting that I was in front of CEO Aria, I blurted out, I should have a choice too. Hearing this, CEO Aria turned beet red and threw a stack of documents from her desk at me. Well then, how about getting fired and understand? You might not find another job. You dare disrespect me. I won't let this slide. I'll give you some time, but you better say yes. If you refuse, you're fired. And I'm not talking about 3 months from now. It'll be effective immediately. From that day on, I felt like I was barely alive. Getting fired was a problem, but marrying CEO Aria would be hell. I knew that much. Unable to give an answer, I continued going to work. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep due to anxiety. I didn't realize that my decision-making ability was getting worse. A few days after CEO Aria proposed to me, Madison came to my house. It was an unexpected visit. We hadn't planned anything. Seeing my face at the door, Madison was taken aback. "Jake, you've got dark circles under your eyes and you've lost weight. You're not eating enough, are you? You look really pale." Madison's words made me realize that I might have lost some weight. I hadn't taken a good look in the mirror or stepped on a scale, so I hadn't noticed. Standing aimlessly at my front door, Madison forcefully nudged me from behind and sat me down on the living room couch. "I came over because I was worried. You didn't reply to my texts or calls. I thought you were busy with work, maybe doing overtime, but here you are at home. You could have responded. Don't make me worry like this." All I could muster in response to Madison's words was a weak yare. In the meantime, Madison was briskly arranging Tupperware on the table. It seemed she had prepared some food. I made all the dishes you love, Jake. So eat a lot. I figured you might have been too busy to cook, so I also brought some rice. I'll put this in a bowl." Madison's voice was somehow comforting, and the aroma wafting from the warm dishes was incredibly appetizing. I took Madison's suggestion and started eating the rice and dishes. Grilled pork, casserole, fried chicken, potato salad, scrambled eggs, all my favorite foods. It had been a while since I had a leisurely meal or even ate something that someone else had cooked. "Delicious," I said, and realized that I was crying. In a panic, I looked at Madison, fearing she had seen me crying, but the tears just wouldn't stop. On the contrary, they began to flow more and more. All the hardship and suffering I had been enduring seemed to explode the moment I looked at Madison. I continued eating while sobbing. Madison simply watched me with a kind smile. "If you're hungry, that's a good sign. Eat plenty. I made all this just for you, Jake." And so, under Madison's watchful gaze, I continued to eat and cry. After the meal, Madison made me a cup of cocoa. I usually drink coffee, but perhaps seeing how exhausted I was, she decided to avoid it. I took a sip of the warm cocoa and looked at Madison. When I did, our eyes met. She had been looking at me too. From her gaze, I could tell she was worried about me. I had avoided consulting her about my boss and work to prevent her from worrying, but I realized that I was causing her plenty of worry even now. But I decided to tell her everything. I didn't want to lie or hide anything from her, as she had been so supportive and concerned about me. Every day at work, I was subjected to harassment and yelling. I was loaded with unpaid overtime and had no time to rest. And just recently, I was told to get married as a cover for an affair. Upon hearing this, I could see Madison's brow furrow. She was clearly upset. "Why don't you just quit that job? Why are you so attached to that company?" "Because I only have a high school diploma and I don't have family. They told me I won't find another job. I might even struggle to pay my rent." Immediately, Madison started browsing something on her phone and then showed me the screen. There were various job postings that were open to high school graduates. It's true that there are places that will hire high school graduates as full-time employees, though not as many as college graduates, and even part-time workers can earn enough to get by. It's okay to try to get a full-time job from a part-time job. What Madison was saying was pretty much common sense, but it felt as if I was hearing it for the first time. "Besides, Jake, you're not one to waste money. You must have enough saved for rent for a while. Even if you quit your job, you'll be able to survive for a while." Madison told me to take my checkbook, so I did and checked my bank balance. Just as Madison had said, I had enough saved in my account to cover my rent for a considerable period, since I didn't have any extravagant spending habits. I have money. Why did I convince myself that I couldn't quit my job? As I muttered this, Madison tightly grasped my hand. "You've been working too hard, Jake. That company is horrible. Under normal circumstances, anyone would realize how absurd the company and its boss are. They could even be sued. Your judgment has dulled due to the constant denial and exhaustion." Her words struck me to the core. What should I do? For the first time, I admitted my weakness to Madison, asking for her help. Madison smiled at me confidently. "Leave it to me. I know people who can help. Why don't you go to bed, Jake? I'll call in sick for you tomorrow, so you can sleep as much as you want." I wondered if it was okay to skip work like that. As I was thinking this, the shrill voice of my boss, Oria, echoed in my ears. Useless. I could hear her yelling at me. Scary images of Oria played in my mind one after another, and I became scared. Seeing me freeze up, Madison, who seemed to have sensed something, gently took my hand. And that's when she said, It's going to be all right." When Madison held my hand and made me lie down in bed, the fear and anxiety within me gradually subsided, and my eyelids slowly closed. The next day, I woke up well past 3 p.m. I was surprised to find that I had slept for more than half a day without waking up even once. Even after I woke up, Madison continued to take care of me in every possible way, and that evening she took me to a cafe. There, I was introduced to a middle-aged man. He was no acquaintance of mine, and he was too old to be Madison's friend. Seeing my puzzled face, Madison said something I did not expect. "This man is my father." The middle-aged man in front of me nodded with a smile. From what I heard, he was indeed her biological father. Madison's mother passed away shortly after giving birth to her. Her father, Howard, who had since become mentally and physically unwell and found it difficult to work or raise a child, had to put Madison in a foster home. After that, Howard had been admitted to a mental hospital and rallied on his parents' home, and was able to return to society. Although he hadn't seen Madison for many years out of guilt, he had apparently come to see her 2 years ago. At first, Madison couldn't accept her father, but recently it seemed they were finally able to build a good relationship. At first, I was so angry at him for abandoning me, but then working as a nurse and seeing people who are grieving after losing a partner or suffering from mental illness, I started to think that my father must have been struggling too. I still don't feel like we are a parent and a child, but I think it would be nice if we could understand each other better and gradually build a good relationship. She seemed to have intended to introduce him to me once my work situation calmed down. Howard, it turns out, is currently working as a journalist. I've heard about you from Madison. You've been looking out for her like a big brother since she was a little girl, haven't you? I am grateful for that, just like Madison. That's what I want to help you this time." As I was taken aback, Madison threw me a lifeline. "Jake, he also posts articles online. He knows some lawyers, too. If you go and say you're quitting all by yourself, you might be sweet-talked into staying. I think it's okay to rely on Howard and other people." I bowed deeply to Howard, who had gentle eyes very much like Madison's. "I want to quit that company and start over my life. Could you help me?" Howard confidently replied, "Leave it to me." Howard's actions from then on were swift. He brought in a lawyer he knew and negotiated with my company on my behalf, allowing me to easily quit my job. When they were informed that the company's treatment of me would be made into an article and published online, the CEO and chairman of the board seemed quite frightened. They must have been aware that they were doing something wrong. Thanks to the testimonies of other employees, the CEO admitted to his verbal abuse towards me. I received an official apology and severance pay plus compensation for emotional distress that was more than double what I had expected. I was so afraid of quitting the company, but when I did, I felt surprisingly lighthearted. When I expressed my gratitude to Howard again later, he taught me something I didn't expect. Actually, Madison didn't ask me to help her childhood friend. She said, "I want you to help the person I love." Like me, Howard was driven to the edge both mentally and physically when he lost his wife. That's why he wanted to be of help to me, it seemed. Hearing this, I devoted myself to job hunting to respond to Madison's wishes. I confessed to Madison and started dating her as soon as I found a new part-time job. I love you, Madison, and I want to be with you as a partner from now on. I've been wondering when you were going to tell me. I've always loved you, too. Ever since we were children, and you were always there for me like a big brother. So we started dating, and now, 1 year later, I'm working and studying to become a child care worker via distance learning. I hope to work in a foster home like the one where we grew up someday. We started living together last month. I plan to propose to Madison again when my dream of becoming a child care worker comes true. I'm still studying to become a child care worker, and Madison still has student loans left from her nursing school days. Life is not easy, and it is often difficult to balance part-time work and studying. But I feel very encouraged to be able to support each other with Madison, and I feel happy to be living with the person I love. From now on, I want to live my life cherishing the people who care for me.